As of today, and this will be relevant to when this is released, it is January 1st, 2023 for
Woo!
most of the world that follows that calendar.
It is a revolution around the sun. Like
Of course.
a feat was made, right? But
Oh, in an effort for Jews to resist Hellenization,
mm,
we reject this this day, correct?
uh we live in a world of the nations. Like we're not, we're never meant to be the majority. Jews actually have four New Years. It's Rosh Hashanah, it's Tu B'Shvat, which is coming up, the new year for the trees. There's Pesach, which is the new actual year. So the calendar the month of Nisan is actually the first month of the Hebrew calendar. Um, what we celebrate on Rosh Hashanah is the beginning of mankind. It's the birthday of humanity. And actually Elul, Rosh Chodesh Elul, the month before Rosh Hashanah, is considered a new year as well.
Not to be confused with the month of Yule, which is Christian or pagan.
Right. Okay. Interesting. It's more of a. I'm learning about this now. So, the first of Elul is commemorating the new year for the tithing of the cattle. So, I guess this is like an ancient thing of like when cattle would be given to the temple, probably, or to the priests. Very little information on this website, but yeah, the more you know. So I mean, yeah, I don't think we live like I was saying, we live amongst the nations. Obviously, in Israel, I'll tell you, nobody cares. Everyone went to work, and like maybe yeah, for sure, people were partying in Tel Aviv, but I don't think Tel Aviv needs an excuse to throw
No,
parties.
Tel Aviv never turns the lights off.
Exactly, the city that never stops. That's what they call themselves. Sorry, the
I
non-stop city.
like that.
Regardless, I think it's a good. It's usually people do resolutions and all this fun stuff,
The
which
average New Year's resolution, according to like 2 years ago, an individual's New Year's resolutions would be kept on average for 2 weeks, for the first 2 weeks of January, and then they'd be broken. So I think whatever your New Year's resolutions are, and for those listening all over the world, don't temper your ambition, but also be equally pragmatic and realistic. I don't know. It depends
yeah,
on what you're trying to resolve.
yeah, that would be a good practice in general too, where it's like when you look at Rosh Hashanah, the main thing about Rosh Hashanah is like setting real resolutions, like
Yeah.
deep resolutions uh that are based on who you were. That usually helps I guess guide that process because that's the whole thing of teshuvah is like part of it is remembering where you were and where you are now. So when you set a resolution that doesn't have that like I guess that weight, that base, you might run into an issue when okay, boom, like the energy's gone, you're back, things are back to normal. So it kind of helps you, I would say, stay grounded. If there's any follow positive things, follow positive accounts, consume positive content, whether it's from us. I know sometimes we might get a little negative when it comes to the history stuff, but we try hard to add a positive spin, I would
And we
say.
also, for the record, didn't produce the negativity we're commenting on. Um, it, we and I'm not a fan of the saying "don't hurt the messenger." I don't even know if I agree with that, but really, we
Oh
are.
yeah, it's a different thing.
Speaking for myself here, not the
Yeah,
platform. Commenting and illuminating the darkness is one component of bringing in light.
I actually learned something I mean, I relearned something that I had written myself last year, 5781 for Hanukkah. Shared it again this year, and it goes with what you're saying, where it's the only way that we can see the power of light is in contrast to the darkness, right? That's how you know how bright something is only in respect to the darkness. Obviously, during the day, it's only light,
Right.
right? So we already know that there's a certain mode of reality where there is only light, but we need the night. So the night comes. We know the night is coming. but the night comes after the day, right? Everything's a cycle, but it still comes in a way where you had the experience of the light, right? And that's what I guess one of the things that we try to take away from Hanukkah is that the eighth night when it's fully bright and it's and you got that full menorah, that's that light that's going to be with you, and in the darkness.
No, absolutely. I mean, Goggins talks about this. David Goggins talks about this all the time, about he goes to his deepest, darkest places in his mind
Mhm.
and stays in them, and that's how he fosters growth.
Right. Yeah, because then you defeat fear,
Right.
and like that is so like central and crucial to
Our
having
being.
like a
Oh
a
yeah.
deeper a deeper faith, not just in yourself but in God, where it's like you have nothing to fear. Literally, you have nothing to fear.
Yeah.
And like, obviously, we're not talking about there's certain situations where maybe your life is in danger,
Yeah.
and but that's the crazy part where it's like it's an extreme idea where like even then you have nothing to fear because God loves you and God wants you to be here.
Yeah.
And like, again, these are crazy thoughts that it's not, they don't sit well with everyone, and I get why it wouldn't. So it takes practice to like, get into that. It's almost like you're letting go, and you're just, that's the concept of faith, emunah,
Yeah.
bitachon. Bitachon in Hebrew, the word for like it really means security. Like when you're talking about the security of a place, you say like, oh, that's the bitachon. And to be batuach is to be sure. The word betach, it's like a complete faith where you know that no matter what, you're good, and the people around you are good. And again, it's all connected to this idea of light and dark, where it's like, unfortunately, often it feels darker, constantly.
And we've
But
seen a lot of that darkness over the past 12 months in a whole host of forms. Um, it's funny. It certainly wasn't funny. It was really interesting and shocking, but at the same time, not surprising. I guess when it sort of kick off, right around the Thanksgiving time, where there was just this plethora of just anti-Semitism on social media. Of course, anti-Semitism's always been on social media, for the record, for those that think otherwise. But the specifically referring to sort of the Kanye, Nick Fuentes, then sort of Kyrie sprinkled in between,
yeah,
and then Dave Chappelle fanning the flames a little bit. It was really interesting. Well, sort of two things that I've really been waiting to break down with you and our listeners. You have those comments, and I don't want to give those comments more attention than they've already been given. And then on the other end of that leaf, you have the spaces that we're in on social media and the disagreements about how best to process and digest this
yeah,
hatred. So Kanye, runs his mouth. He's talking about a bunch of stuff, and some of the responses was, well, invitations to Holocaust memorials and museums, and sort of coming together in this sort of way, trying to sort of educate him in this sort of standard way where, you know, maybe a Holocaust museum would benefit someone like Whoopi Goldberg, but it wouldn't benefit someone like Kanye West. I mean, you talked about this in the past, Mayor, this idea of bring an anti-Semite into a Holocaust museum. They walk out and they're like, good.
that's yeah. Well, not my. It's originally a bit from Modi, which I
Okay.
don't know where he got it from, but that was his bit. Where he's like, can we stop bringing anti-Semites to Holocaust museums? Because they'll walk in and they'll say like, wow, this guy like, and it's sad because like, and then you see, obviously it's exaggerated for comedy, but you see Marjorie Taylor Greene goes and what does she take out? She like finds validation for what she used to say, at least about the vaccines
Right.
and the J, and right, the fact that J was stamped it, and
Right. Yeah.
and then like whatever, someone who was vaccinated was
Right.
stamped.
Right.
And she says something else too, but it's like even people that are like subtle with their anti-Semitism, whatever, or just they don't realize that what they're saying.
Yeah. The
Um,
implications of what they're.
yeah, they go in there and they find justifications for the things that they already were thinking before. And but this goes even deeper. It's why teaching about the Holocaust unfortunately hasn't helped people like understand it,
Right.
or it doesn't help. Or the denial levels are just like rising constantly. Um, and it's like it's what Darren Horn talks about. It's like it's hearing about dead Jews has never changed anything. People actually, according to her, her thesis with the book is that people actually like it sells to talk about dead Jews, and for a while we thought that would be enough, and now it's like it's so obvious after the whole Kanye thing where it's like it took him to go on a radio show of like a known extreme,
Right.
seemingly extreme person who was like Alex Jones was like thrown into the center, sitting
And
there like
he's made to look like some moderate conservative
right.
trying to rein him in.
Right, and it's not even about Alex Jones. It's like it took
Right.
to the point where like it took to the point where Kanye had to yell, I like quoting Kanye, like I love Hitler, I love Nazis,
Yeah.
for the world to be like, oh, this guy is kind of an anti-Semite. Obviously, it's very complicated, and at the end of the day, I really think that if we're talking about him specifically, like he has he has very evident like mental health issues, which doesn't excuse the words and doesn't excuse the
Absolutely.
ignorance,
That
but
needs to
it's
be
so obvious that he's off his meds.
right. And that's the other thing.
Yeah,
Again, I'm not a brand specialist. I'm not a social worker. I don't work in those fields, but at the end of the day, I don't believe that mental illness is the end all be all justifiable excuse for being able to espouse hatred. It might be a
of
component.
course not.
Again, this isn't really I mean, it's more relevant to me and probably relevant to people that really enjoyed Kanye's music and now can't listen to it at all and go out of my way not to listen to it. But that's like, it doesn't really make sense. And I think the Horn point is really important. And that Ben Freeman and others, that's why they've driven the point home that the way you fight anti-Semitism isn't through Holocaust education, it's through Jewish pride.
Well, I wouldn't credit Ben Freeman with that
No, no,
one.
no, no.
That's
I
like
said
a
no,
very
and others.
core
I'm just saying
Chabad
he's a
thing.
messenger of that point.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm saying,
No, that's. I mean, if you look at Chabad, that's how they've always countered it. It's like
right.
you want to know how to fight people that hate Jews, be more Jewish. And that's one of the things I want to get into about Kanye, where it's like, in a way, we have to almost thank him because he might have woken up a lot of people, and he continues to wake up a lot of people, Jews I'm talking about, who are seeing this, who are rightly triggered, who are rightly feel bad, and feel helpless. And I hope that in this state, they're like, what does it really mean to be a Jew beyond eating bagels and going to your Seder and Yom Kippur? Like
That's all great, by the way. You shouldn't stop doing that.
100%, you should not. But
No,
it's
no,
like,
no, and I'm not saying you're not. And I
yeah,
know
it's
you're
the
not
tip of the
suggesting
tip of the
otherwise.
tip of the tip of the iceberg.
No, I understand, but
No?
the point I think that the other point embedded in what you just said is how do we activate Jews who practice and don't just come alive when they're fighting Jew hatred?
Right.
People
Don't
who
make your
define their
Jewish
Jewish identity around
don't exactly. Don't
yeah.
That's such an important thing for 2023, 5783. Do not make your Jewish identity about anti-Semitism. And it's actually so connected to what we were just talking about with the light and dark. If in this analogy, your Jewish identity is the light and the darkness is anti-Semitism. The idea is, I love this metaphor of like going into this new year. We're already 3 months into the new year. It's so important not to make your Jewish identity about anti-Semitism, because anti-Semitism is going to exist no matter what. And you know what's also going to exist is and has a higher level of like just meaning and connection and purpose is you being Jewish. So that's the light that needs to be focused on. Yes, maybe sometimes in contrast to the darkness, but never overpowered by the darkness, because all it takes is a little flicker and you eliminate a little bit of the darkness. And so like focus on on what it means to be Jewish. And we've talked about this before, and we're gonna keep reiterating maybe a couple times a year, maybe when holiday comes around, or this is constant.
Get your daily quarterly dose. Yeah.
Yeah, at Daily Jewish, at Honest Dan Jewish History.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that might help is like looking at Chabad. The Rebbe put out 10 missions when he was in his leadership. One of those missions is putting on tefillin. Another mission was women lighting candles on Shabbat. Another mission was Jewish education. So it's like if you just Google these, you can find them all very easily on Chabad.org or anywhere else. Uh, and just look and see which one of these missions maybe I can try to work on this year. Talking about resolutions, talking about something with meaning. If you didn't do this already during Rosh Hashanah, here's your next chance. The Goyim are giving you another opportunity. They made up a new year, and we're gonna go with it. So look at the Rebbe's campaigns, as he called them, the missions, whatever, and try to do one. If it's tzedakah, maybe giving a couple cents a day. If it's tefillin, maybe rapping, maybe working on that one. If lighting candles for women. Another one was also like purity of the house. Once a couple is married, keeping to the laws that come with a married couple and when the woman's on her period, called nida. Making sure your mezuzah is kosher or having a mezuzah. I think that was another mission. So these are easy mitzvot. You will create a light. You will influence others, and this is how you will inspire your what we're talking about of like being more Jewish. And then the next time another Kanye comes around, yes, called him out. We're not saying don't call these people out. Call them out. Can't ignore, especially if you have a lot of followers that are not Jewish. But then don't let it stay there. Like then it takes action, and to action in Jewish sense. Like if you see something that, then maybe give a lot of tzedakah as to counter what you're seeing. Like these things actually have an impact. My brother-in-law has an amazing new thing that he's doing where when he does like a big purchase in business, when he gets something, or Hashem, he's doing well in his real estate business, he gives a big tzedakah, like in equal, if not double, of the tzedakah for the big deal that he made in business. So for every little thing, and then now we're talking about obviously something different, where it's like you see something negative, so then counter it with something positive. Counter it with your individual positive act. Reach out to your rabbi and see if he needs anything from your university. Reach out to the local Holocaust survivor retirement homers. Sometimes they live together,
Yeah.
especially in Israel, where they need help. Do something like that, and who knows? Wow, if everyone that's listening to this podcast, I mean, we might bring Mashiach just with this.
Not to bring it back to conversations I had with other members of the Jewish community, but I was interested. I mean, maybe this is hopefully the following is a minority opinion, but I heard from several people the idea of, Jews need to sort of relax when it comes to their accomplishments in secular society. It's like percentage of Nobel Prize winners, Supreme Court. And I'm like, no, that's not the. I'm like, first of all, like again, it can be funny, but it very quickly the humor recedes and it becomes dangerous because again, tampering progress again and tampering pride isn't going to bring the solutions that I think collectively we all want. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe, again, we're not a monolith when it comes to thought, and that's a good thing. But I think that we should have some shared goals. I mean, remember what you said? We had a conversation a couple of months ago where you said, listen, if the goal isn't to bring Moshiach and to bring back the kingdom of David, then what are we fighting for?
That's it.
And I think, and honestly, the vast majority of Jews, don't even know what that is, but that's not the point. Well, maybe that is the point. But once they know what that is, I don't know. I'm kind of a pessimist when it comes to this. I don't think they want that. Not to generalize.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't totally disagree. That's the problem of assimilation. That's the fight. That's the war with Greece that we're still fighting to this day. Exactly what you just described. Literally, like if your spiritual connection, if you lose sight of what it means to be Jewish beyond these nice cultural things that we have, then it's empty. And what I'm about to say might seem a little controversial, and it's definitely like a thought of mine that's evolved since
I'm ready to disagree. Lay it on me.
I made Aliyah. You might agree. Here it goes. Zionism alone, like the Zionism of the secular Zionism alone, I believe it's not enough to like move to Israel and stay in Israel today.
Well, what does that entail?
In the past, it was because a lot of it was very linked to actual ideas of labor. So they would, the very what we call chalutzim, the pioneers, they would go and they would actually work the land. They would practice their
Were the
socialist.
labor Zionists secular Zionists under your
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes. So there was a sense of purpose that went beyond the ideology, because when they came to Israel, they actually, like, a lot of them came from like socialist
Yeah,
backgrounds, and they come here and they become involved in these communes called kibbutzim and moshavot, not and uh, and um and
and
so it would
Ulpans,
be put to
right?
practice.
Yeah,
What?
and Ulpans, right? Didn't they live on Ulpans too?
Ulpan is just
Is another word for
the word for like studio, but
oh, okay.
usually it means like Hebrew classes. Sure, they started teaching Hebrew in these spaces because everyone was learning. They were like, you can't speak Yiddish, you can't speak Russian, you have to speak Hebrew. So it's like you had all these things that gave them meaning, and they could ignore the Torah. They used the Torah as inspiration, but they could ignore it because they were replacing it. So now the state is built. Kibbutzim are almost none of them. There's only like a handful left that are actually socialist. The state has moved fully capitalist, on par with like the world, the world needs. Also, just what the state became in terms of the startups, and all of the different achievements in science and agriculture and all these different things. And it was a natural path. I feel that if you're coming to Israel and you don't have a connection to the land, to the people, to these Jewish things that we're talking about, this ideology, it's not going to last, because you're going to get really pissed at certain things about the country, which you're rightly to be pissed about, because it's hard to live here and it's expensive and it's BS and blah 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 blah. But I've seen it in the communities here. The people that have a connection to the land, to God, to each other, enjoy living here in a deeper sense, way beyond the secular Tel Avivian. And while
The
people might
and
get
I
mad at me
think
for
what you just outlined illuminates the divide. What do we want? Do we want a Jewish state, or do we want a state for Jews?
exactly. I tweeted that the other day.
And we're not going
Yeah,
to name names because we don't need to, but we know people who proudly want a state for Jews, and we know people that proudly want a Jewish state. And that doesn't mean there can't be overlap. I mean,
yeah.
in a perfect world, or in an ideal world, or in the world we hope to build, the Jewish state is the state for Jews. It's not.
That's
It's
what we're
not
trying to do.
right. And Israel just formed another coalition government, and so that will continue in the political sphere. But of course, in the spiritual sphere, and it's intermingling with the cultural sphere, which we just outlined. That work continues both alongside and independent of what takes place in the Knesset.
Yeah, I mean, we can't ignore it now that you brought it up, but it's this government is a little controversial in the sense where they want to create a Jewish state,
Right.
and it's like, and then if you support it, then you're an extreme right wing messianic, which I'll take that term, but minus the Jesus stuff. Like you're labeled. You really feel an energy here now, very similar to 2016, like America, where it was like, even if you disagreed with Trump as a person and different things, but if you if you leaned a little right, then you're racist, you're a bigot, and you can't, like, you're put into this square. It's beginning to happen here. I mean, literally, as of this recording, the government became official. There were already protests in front of the Knesset and in Tel
Right. But
Aviv.
and again, I'm not uh uh disagreeing with what you just said, but it is true that whether or not it's true currently, but the members of the coalitions that Netanyahu is partnering with in the past, at least some of them have made, like, it's the term controversial is sort of can be rightfully used in certain contexts, and haven't certain laws been changed? Again, we can debate the
No, they
merits of
haven't
those
changed.
laws being changed, but
No, the government just entered, so no laws have been changed. Well, actually, yeah, they did pass something. They passed something where somebody can refuse service to somebody else if it goes against their religious beliefs.
right.
So it's a way to like discriminate against LGBTQ. But at the end of the day, the LGBTQ individual does not have to see that doctor either. So, without getting too much into
Right.
it, it's obviously not an ideal law for a lot of people here.
Right.
And yes, like in the past, Itamar Ben-Gvir is like an absolute POS, but like he still says things like it is. And it's he's a really hard figure to like to align with because of the stuff that he said, and he incited actual violence, and he didn't even go to the army.
Well, that's the
Um,
question. The question is, can you draw a line between the person and the policy
um,
to get back to
ideally,
Trump, or to get
yeah,
back to 2016?
ideally you
Or
can, ideally you can, um, but now this goes into for me personally, this is where I begin to like just feel uncomfortable about the whole thing, in the sense where I don't know, man. Politics here almost look like an absolute joke, where it's like all these people are just fighting. Everyone hates each other. No one actually wants progress. That's why we have a million elections. The
again, a
system is
noted figure
broken.
on Instagram has said that the chief reason for that is because it's not a Jewish system. This is an offshoot of British colonialism.
Yeah.
And again, that might I doubt that's the whole story, but does that also complicate the nature of things?
Yeah, because it's not what we're supposed to be doing. And you see the issues. You see the issues because it's like a huge band-aid on yeah.
Okay, so lastly, we have to talk about it. I know it's been on your mind. Mayor, what is a black Hebrew Israelite?
Oh God.
Got
I mean,
no.
I'm having deja vu. We did this. We did
You
this
did?
when Deshaun Jackson tweeted the fake Hitler quote. This
No,
was
I
like our earliest
understand, but
stuff.
there's just been a plethora of black Hebrew Israelite content, and I've heard it on certain podcasts. And again, pardon my ignorance. I mean, again, and this gets back to in a way the scene in Israel. Because they changed, did they change the law of return?
They're working on that one.
They're working on that one. Um,
I think. I don't know if it passed. Oh no, I think it did pass.
can you state what the law? We don't have to get into this, but just can you state, because for those who don't know what the law of return is?
As of this recording, yeah, it passed. The law of return is a law that allows any Jew to move to Israel. So the question becomes, what is a Jew?
Right.
To move to Israel to have citizenship. And originally the law was a lot more liberal,
Meaning a Jew was
meaning like,
defined as a mother or father being Jewish.
yeah, and it was a lot of it was modeled off the Nuremberg laws that made any Jew who had a grandfather that was Jewish, even on his dad's side, according to the Nazis, was Jewish. So in order to like, give a middle finger to that, Israel made that the law. But according to halacha, which is Jewish law, someone is Jewish when their mother is Jewish, and somebody whose father is Jewish and mother is not, is more than welcome to convert and join the tribe by choice, which is in a way a very high merit. And no,
More
it is a
noble,
huge
right?
merit. It's a convert becomes higher than us. We have to. It says in the Torah to take care of the widow, the orphan, and the convert. You're never supposed to doubt a convert. It's like there's a lot of things that comes with being a convert, which in a person who has only a father that's Jewish, or maybe neither, and just a grandparent was, um, they're welcome to start that process and then move to Israel. And I believe that the law was changed so that now it's only through a mother.
Well, again, I understand the shifting of the power and, really sticking it to the Nazis, but in a way, I mean,
It might still be in debate. Sorry, go ahead.
I've had conversation with people saying, like, halachically, I'm not Jewish, but Hitler would have killed me. And I'm like, hold on, let's back up for a second. Since when are you letting an anti-Semite define the fact that you're Jewish?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
how much more power do you want to give this man?
Yeah. Yeah. Who cares? Yeah. 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 100%. It's a part of, I think it's the nature of today, the victim mentality, like being a victim is good. This whole, this idiotic idea that like um, pain equals like respect. And it's like, no, like, and I promise you, if Jews didn't have to complain or talk about the crap that's happened to us, we would not. A lot of anti-Semites or neutral people be like, oh my God, there go the Jews again complaining. You saw this constant. It's the gaslighting. Gaslighting is a huge part of anti-Semitism. Being yelled at and told that your feelings are invalid is a huge part of it. So then Jews kind of double down sometimes because they feel the gaslit, and being gaslit is one of the most awful feelings you could feel. And so and it's happening, times a million on social media. So like, um, it becomes a difficult situation where Jews double down and they're like, oh, look at other people like gaining sympathy through victimhood and tragedy. What about us? We
Right,
like,
and then it becomes the
bro, the
opposite.
Holocaust, bro, the Holocaust. And it's like, now you're using the Holocaust, like like why are you doing that to the 6 million?
Right,
Like
exactly. And then
like
it's
that's why they died, so you can make a point on Instagram.
right, right.
Sure as fuck that, like, that's not it. So I mean,
And
I like how we're coming back to the same idea where it's like, bro, you want to fight these things, you want to feel good, you want to. First of all, also, please, people, disconnect. Don't like the doom scroll, especially when you follow all Jewish accounts and everyone's posting the same thing. The doom scroll can really mess with you. It's like you have to be able to disconnect, put on a time limit, keep Shabbat, like pick a day. It doesn't have to be Saturday. Pick a day to turn your phone off, and or at least just the apps, because it's like, yeah, no good can come from too much to it. You need to, you get the news, you get the information. Okay, so.
yeah, and it's
But I didn't answer your question. I honestly don't want to go into the Black Hebrew Israelite thing,
uh,
because I don't
for
want to
the
make this.
record, Mayor's not going to comment on his relationship or associations with Black Hebrew
Okay,
Israelites.
you know what?
No,
I'll
I'm
answer the
kidding. No,
question.
no,
What are they?
we're
No,
cutting out that.
they're. I'll tell you.
Okay.
I'll talk about
No,
it.
no, 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 no. Honestly, I'm not trying to
They're
press you. I
black
just got to.
supremacists. The
What?
black supremacists that are basically neo Nazis, but with different
And this
chants.
isn't to be confused with legitimate Black Jews.
Of course not. God forbid. God forbid. That would be insane. No, we're talking about Black Hebrew Israelites, especially the ones that are in New York City, on Harlem, yelling at you. If anyone's
Yeah,
been in that area,
yeah,
knows.
and outside the Barclays Center. Yeah.
Right, they did a whole march recently, and this movie that came out that Kyrie promoted was really troubling. Um, they deny the Holocaust. They also are like, they both deny it and are happy about it. So that's like that weird thing, the weird Venn
Right, where it's
diagram. They're
like
right in
more
there,
should have died, but it never
but it
really
also didn't happen.
happened.
Pick one, bro. They say that Jews single-handedly as a people and a race ran the slave trade, and they did it all in the name of eliminating them because we knew that they were the real Jews. I'm quoting. Um, and so yeah, so it's like, you bring up Black Jews. I live in Israel. There are many Black Jews here. Um, I will never, God forbid, walk up to one and be like, you know, you're like, accuse them of being a Black Hebrew Israelite, or question their Judaism, you know. And they don't do the same to me. So the question that I've always had for Black Hebrew Israelites, and we had it. I spoke to many when I was on Clubhouse back in the day, and we were having these rooms all together, and it was chaos. The question I asked was, if you are Jewish, then why don't you see me as Jewish as well? In the sense where I've never gone up to another Jew and like violently denied or yelled at them or cursed at them. Like, why don't why or fine, maybe I don't fit into your thing because I'm white, but if an Ethiopian Jew or a Beta Israel Jew comes up to you, like, are you yelling at them in the same way? And it's like, can we, and if so, if you're Jewish, can we have a shared value? And then I asked, do you guys also celebrate Passover? Like, do you have a Seder? If you're Jewish, you have one, right? Like, that's like the most Jewish thing you could do is have a Passover Seder. And they like didn't answer my question and then got past it. And then at one point we were just yelling at each other again.
Well, I was gonna say, do Black Hebrew Israelites follow the Torah?
I'm not sure. I don't think they do because they're still
Right,
Christian. Like they
right. And is
practice
this,
Christian,
but this is
they believe in
connected,
Jesus
right? Is this
and they follow the
connected?
King James Bible that even Christians say has a bad translation.
Okay. Does the is this connected to I'm a Semite, therefore I can't be anti-Semitic? Or is that not part
Yeah,
of Black
kind
Hebrew
of. I mean,
Israelite?
they ran with that. They also say we're
Right,
Jewish, and that's why the word Jewish exists. And it's like, bro, like these are just basic linguistic like facts. It's the whole anti-Semite thing is ridiculous. And we've talked
right,
about
of
this a
course.
million
And we've
times
matched
because
that up before.
like nobody's a Semite. Nobody's a
Also,
Semite.
right, because the Semite is a language group, not a group of
Correct.
people. Right.
So when somebody says that, they're outing themselves as ignorant. And it's like that goes back to the idea of gaslighting, where it's like part of being an anti-Semite is that you have to gaslight the person and tell them, no, actually, I'm not. It's like gaslighting 101. So then if they're not, then you have nothing else to say. And like that's what we have to deal with. So the fact that these things exist, okay, it's sad and it's annoying, and you hope that people change and you hope that people look at themselves in the mirror, and you hope Kanye somehow wakes up from this dream. uh I don't think so. you know and like we had people like Louis Farrakhan saying these things forever now, and he's still got a huge platform. Maybe he's a little more quiet now because he's banned from some apps, but he's still doing these things. And when you see people like Kanye saying these things, this is where it's coming from. Like Kanye and Kim took a picture with him. A bunch of celebrities meet with this guy,
Yeah.
and nobody cares. Nobody cares. And it took Kanye to go on a show and yell that he loves Nazis for people to start caring. And it's like, and then it just goes back to the idea of like, unfortunately, Holocaust education taught the world that the only form of anti-Semitism that's valid and real is Nazis. And
Which
that's such a dangerous idea.
which goes back to the idea that we've replaced, it's been said before, and this is not an original idea from me, but it's one I agree with, that we've replaced teaching about anti-Semitism with a limited teaching of the Holocaust.
Right.
And but at the same time, the you know what you said, it took people, Kanye, to buddy up to Nazis to start caring about anti-Semitism and to stop caring about Kanye.
Right.
So, and
And it's the same reason that people, especially in American media, can't stop bringing up Charlottesville.
right,
Because men in tiki torches somehow, honestly, I'm going to be honest with you. What scares me more is not men in tiki torches in a red state and city. It's two people walking into a kosher market in Jersey City, New Jersey, and then 12 days later into a Hanukkah party in Muncie.
oh yeah.
That's what scares me. And when if anti-Semitism is brought up as a story for some, because now it's being talked about, they'll do B-roll of Charlottesville.
Do you, well, again, and I think this is an important point. And we talked about this with Scott, with Scott Cushing, and others. The idea that when fighting anti-Semitism, it's very hard to fight anti-Semitism while also not universalizing hatred more broadly. Like, we can fight anti-black racism and it can be in one lane. We can fight and bigotry towards homosexuals or other marginalized groups, and that can stay in one lane. When it comes to Jews, it's sort of, and again, I understand and I hear the arguments for, we're united, just standing against hatred, but no, there's this sense of, oh, we have to merge
Yeah.
fighting against anti-Semitism with fighting against other forms of racism.
Yeah, and you see it especially when the hostage situation in Texas happened.
Oh yeah,
Remember that? That was almost like it was like crazy because
that was almost a year ago.
It was Islamic terrorism. Yeah, it was Islamic terrorism. So immediately, the pundits and the Congress people,
Right.
Rashida Tlaibs and Ilhan Omar's of the world were getting ready to like to post this like inclusive thing, because God forbid we look at a situation that's clearly Jewish hatred and call it as such alone. Everything has to be conflated and justified, because when you fight when you declare I am against anti-Semitism, then people are gonna be like, what about Palestine? It's like,
Right.
what does that do with Palestine?
Yeah.
Not that that's not an issue. Not that that's not an issue. I'm not trying to. It's an issue that we're
Well,
dealing with.
no, but it's not bringing it up doesn't mean it's not an issue. Not bringing it up just means it's not relevant to what's happening right now, and that's the point.
Right.
It's a virus with no vaccine.
No, there actually no. I disagree. There is a vaccine.
No, there is. But I'm saying we haven't taken the vaccine. The world has not taken the proper vaccine to fight this virus.
Yeah.
Because they think it's controlled by the Jews. Okay.
It's a good wrap up.
So anyway, thank you for listening. A quick look to the year ahead. We have exciting new developments with other key Jewish organizations that we're excited to roll out, both through the Too Tall Jew Show, On the Stand Jewish History, and Jewish Original Media. And we have exciting scholars, spiritual leaders, and other Jewish professionals on tap for our subsequent season of the Too Tall Jews, and we will keep you abreast of any and all progress as we continue to make it, and we're just getting started.
Yeah, 100%. Stick around. We're going into year 3. In May it'll be 3 years, which is amazing. And make sure you check out our merch store. The Zion collection is going to be up there for a little longer. Thank you everyone that's bought. We really appreciate it. If you want a discount, send us a message saying you heard this part of the podcast and you'll get
promo code #Avinu Malkano. No, I'm kidding.
No. If you got this far, then we love you and we want to give you a discount. So send us a message and we'll send it to you. A nice 15%. Follow us on TikTok. We're on TikTok at Jewish Original Media. And stay tuned. We wish we could go deeper. We're going to be hopefully launching some things that we started working on last year. We're very grateful to the World Jewish Congress and everything they did to help us last year, and we hope to continue working with them this year. And like Isaac mentioned, a couple of other Jewish organizations and collaborators. We love working with big Jewish accounts, small Jewish accounts, medium Jewish accounts.
We love working with Jews.
Yeah, we're big into Jews.
Meet more Jews. Continue bringing the light and suppressing the darkness.
Wow, that's good. And we have some big plans in store for year 3 and beyond. So stick around. Thank you for listening and have an amazing 2023. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Too Tall Jew Show.
We can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen.
You can also find us on Instagram at Too Tall Jews Show and Twitter at Too Tall Jews. And you can also find our umbrella page, Jewish Original Media, on Instagram, and the very famous On This Day in Jewish History on Instagram as well, and on Twitter as @DailyJewish. You can find a link to support us on any of our link trees on Instagram or Twitter or even YouTube. Any and all donations are appreciated and will help in development of all of our content, all of our projects. So thank you for that. See you next week.